Man of the year, man of the year, man of the year. Welcome to the number one friendship podcast in the country. I'm Matt Ritter.
I'm Aaron Cairo.
Guys, you can check out our merch, all the other stuff that we do on manoftheyearpodcast.com. Go to our YouTube page. Cairo, I heard a great quote the other day, and I just wanted to share it with you. Comparison is the thief of joy. Teddy Roosevelt said that. And I've been thinking a lot about how a lot of friendship issues arise through jealousy. So I'm just curious how that quote hits you. And I wanted to just dive right into this idea of having healthy levels of competition or comparison with your friends versus unhealthy competition or comparison and boundaries for your mental health.
Yeah, but by the way, comparison fraught, even if it's not a friend, if it's a stranger, if it's a celebrity, if it's someone you see in the street. As we always say, you're often comparing your inside to somebody else's outside.
Mhm.
But I'm still guilty of it. And it's actually gotten worse.
Well, it's a very human instinct. It's gotten worse for you. Well, the older
Yeah.
you get, the richer, the more successful, right? It's easy. It's harder to be that jealous of some other 25-year-old success, maybe.
That's very true. I actually never really, and when you're 22, it's a pretty even playing field.
And also, you just don't care that much, I think, about
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
No, look,
Um,
I'll say I think it's kind of an easy way out to say, oh, it's not healthy, don't do it. Because you're right, it's a human emotion, jealousy.
and by saying comparison is the thief of joy, the subtextualness is you're comparing yourself to someone else, and you're never going to be happy because first of all, you don't know anything about their position, and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and you have to worry about yourself. And also the things, Matt, that we often compare are not drivers of happiness.
I love what you said right there. They shouldn't be the drivers of happiness, a lot of these things. Unfortunately, a lot of people invest in things like objects or money or, job titles, and they invest their identity in them. And when you do that, then yes, you're kind of stuck in this position where anytime you don't have something, negative emotions arise. And then if you see people, especially your friends who do have these things, now you have now put yourself in a position where you're automatically lacking in some fundamental way, which isn't true, right? It's just a story we tell ourselves in our head. You are a complete person sitting where you are today, whatever your life is, you're a complete person. And I just think it's a tough way to go through life going, oh, well, I don't have this and I don't have that, but we all do it.
We should also state the Harvard study, which is also one of the bedrocks of the podcast. Harvard has been studying 3 generations of people since the 1930s, I believe. And their conclusion was the number one driver of longevity and happiness. It was not health. It was not career. It was not diet. It was not money. It was relationships. People with strong relationships were happier and lived longer. So it's not just something we made up.
Right.
It's science, as they say.
So let's dive into the competitive comparison element of how that fits into relationships,
Hey,
friendships.
Matt, before we do that, I just wanted to say one thing. Comparison is a thief of joy. You said Teddy Roosevelt.
Yep.
You want to know an incredible Teddy Roosevelt fact?
I mean, I've read Theodore Rex, so maybe I already know it, but hit me.
Okay. Do you know there's a picture of Theodore Roosevelt at Abraham Lincoln's funeral?
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So he did a funeral procession like up and down the East Coast, like the coffin in like a horse-drawn carriage. It goes down New York City, Broadway or something.
Yep.
In the window, you could see 2 little boys.
Yep.
And
Wow.
one of them, and it's Teddy Roosevelt's apartment, and one of them is Teddy Roosevelt.
That's an incredible fact. You want to hear another Teddy Roosevelt fact that I know that's much darker?
Darker than that? Okay.
Yeah. Much darker than that. His mother and his wife died on the same day.
The same day, the same year.
Same exact day. He lost his mother and his wife in the same day.
Oh, that is pretty bad.
Yeah. Horrific.
Was this
February
before he
14th,
was president?
1884. In the same house, 1884. Yeah.
Wow. So so wait, who was his wife?
Alice Lee Roosevelt.
Okay. Eleanor Roosevelt was
First
FDR,
wife.
right?
His first wife.
Got
Yeah.
it. Wow. Okay. Wow. We really brought
Something
down.
called Bright's disease. Wow, we really brought this thing down.
Yeah.
First of
Yeah.
all, Bright's disease, man, what a name for a disease.
Right?
Bright's disease. I'd never heard of that. It's an archaic term for what is now referred to as nephritis and inflammation of the kidneys.
Mm,
Wow.
mm.
Those
Well,
Bright's disease still exist. It's no longer in use.
I told you that I once got acupuncture, and the woman said, "Oh, your kidney's inflamed."
Oh boy.
She said it must be emotional pollution, and I said, "No, it's the binge drinking."
The physical pollution. Sorry, I only
Yeah.
do physical pollution here.
Yeah,
No.
I guess it was.
No. You got me pegged wrong, lady. Okay, there's literally a cooler of empty beers in my trunk.
Have you ever done acupuncture?
Yeah, I love it.
Does it do anything?
After 5 years, you're still questioning if it does.
Right.
I did it for like a 5-year stretch. Every time I was still like, is it working? Or is this the greatest placebo effect of all time?
I mean, we should say, by the way, if it works, placebo either way. But like 100 years from now, will acupuncture be the new leeches?
Yeah, most likely. But did leeches work? Now I'm going the other way. Maybe leeches worked.
Well, actually, they're bringing leeches back.
They're bringing leeches back.
It was on an episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, so that means it's definitely happening. They're bringing leeches to Cedars-Sinai. Yeah, I just saw some leeches being brought in a fish tank on my way to deliver birth. Wait, what?
Yeah, because they like suck out the poison. I don't know. Someone will write in and tell us the exact thing. But yes, they're using leeches. Anyway,
I would love your take as a listener. Do you think acupuncture works?
By the way, isn't acupuncture isn't it like a 10,000-year-old, like, it's not like a new thing. Obviously.
I agree. It's Eastern medicine. Look, when the big pharma companies came in, they wiped out all of Eastern medicine very deliberately, and they made it sort of fall under this rubric of like quack science. There was a deliberate attempt to smear all Eastern medicine, when these big pharma companies were sort of making hay. So I like acupuncture. Would I swear by it? I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. I mean, that's why my old primary care physician, she was like, studied at Lenox Hill. She actually went to Penn, but she also like would give me essential oils and say and do energy healing. And I was like, okay, at least I know she's like got a little of both.
Yeah. I think we also come from that bias, just from the way we were raised a little bit on that.
Like eating Twinkies every day and thinking that's healthy.
Yeah. The Long Island breakfast, they call it.
You probably didn't even eat like, devil dogs. You had like the off-brand ones. I can't even think of it.
No. Drake's was not that expensive. We were struggling, but we could afford Drake's. Yodels were my favorite. Yodels. They were all the same variation of the same exact ingredients.
God, we ate just garbage.
The brown stuff with the white filling, and Twinkie is just the same exact thing, just different color dye.
I haven't had Twinkie in so long, but I love it. I used to love Twinkies.
No, Yodels. I like to bite the crust. Anyway, let's get back to comparison being the thief of joy. So let me ask you this. Do you compare yourself to friends now? Now we're doing this pod for 2 years. We're in our second year, trying to practice what we preach, healthy habits for healthy friendships.
Do I compare myself to friends? Sure. I mean, absolutely. I think it's involuntary.
Does it affect you?
Does it affect me? I kind of think that for me, I get in trouble with comparison more with non-friends or non-inner circle. I don't know if I can explain why. I think maybe a lot of, you and I work in Hollywood, which is like king of the envious professions. You know, we have a whole website deadline dedicated to like people's accomplishments that we all have to read every day.
It is difficult.
It's very difficult. So I think that's where with friends, I don't find it as much.
Well, let me say this about industries. I don't think it's entertainment industry specific. I think all industries have their trade magazines and all industries have competitive peers and rivals and all that stuff. So I think that's our world. So certainly like for me, yeah, I'm not going to lie and say I don't feel a twinge. Is it a tinge? What do we feel? A twinge or a tinge? Do we ever decide?
It's twinge.
A twinge of jealousy when I see somebody who I feel is doing stuff similar to me and, thriving. But I do try to, on the whole, not spend a lot of time comparing myself to others.
The problem is that in this town and in life generally, people talk about imposter syndrome, thinking that you don't belong. Where I've always had the opposite. I've talked about in the podcast where I think I'm the greatest.
Yeah.
So when I see someone who I think I'm better than, doing better, then I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yes, I also have a bit of narcissism as well in thinking that I am the greatest. But I think just let's hone in on the friendship of it all.
Are we gonna hone in or are we gonna home in?
I don't know anymore. I just don't know anymore. Well, because I do believe that most of the time the stupid people win. So if I'm in the stupid camp for sometimes of these vocabulary debates, sometimes the stupid people just basically mob the dictionary, and the dictionary is like, I give up. Whatever the majority rules is.
That was a nitpicky one. Of course. Who says home in?
Nobody.
Right.
But so to hone in on the friendship of it, I just want to give a question. Is there something healthy about competitive friendship? Because we have a trophy that, sort of drove and is sort of the origin story of this podcast. If you're not familiar, if you're a new listener, the same 9 friends since childhood, we get together every year at Peter Luger Steakhouse in Brooklyn, and we vote on which friend had the best year of life, and the winner gets their name engraved on the trophy, and it's kept us really close. And sometimes people will write in like, oh, that's not healthy, like competing with your friends, like that's stupid. You should just be happy for your friends. And we usually are like, yes, it's not serious to the point where we dislike each other's accomplishments. It's more of a boost each other up, pep talk, excited to hear about each other's accomplishments. So I guess the question is there a certain level of healthiness in having competition? Because I do think we have a very ambitious group of friends, a very successful group of friends. I think we would have been successful regardless, but I do think there is a nice element of pushing yourself when your friends are high achievers.
Well, I was going to say, I think there's sort of 2 ancillary benefits to one of your friends accomplishing something great besides just it's good. Is one, it's a chance to celebrate them. We've talked about this. You need to take opportunity to celebrate your friends. And 2, if you use it as motivation in a healthy way, where it's not like you're trying to do X just because Matt did X, trying to do X because, wow, he's showing you it can be done. You also want to be celebrated. Like, I think it could be great. I dwell. I sometimes will dwell. That's the bad part. Mm-hmm. If you're in a competition, then you tend to dwell.
I think the best way to sort of use quote unquote competition, not comparison, for friendship is the episode we did a couple weeks ago about accountability partners. I think friends make great accountability partners. They don't always have to be your close friends, but I do think there is a nice element of people who know you really, really well and know that you have these ambitions or goals or systems that you're trying to unlock. And if they're also trying to do it and you see them doing it, if that can help you do it and your friend is genuinely invested in both of your success, I think it can be a really positive thing.
Is there this is going to be very Caro-esque. We're assuming comparison, Matt, that the person is doing great. It could be comparison of the person is not doing great, and it's actually the bringer of joy.
Well, we did get a listener question a couple months ago, 6 months ago,
Oh,
where
right.
the guy was like, should I feel bad about feeling so good that I hang out with this loser?
Right.
He didn't say it exactly like that, but he was basically like, I'm objectively better looking and I have hair, and it was great. I know exactly who it is, so I don't want to call him out again, but it was actually a really funny question. It was,
Yeah.
it was very like lighthearted, but I thought there was something hilarious about the fact that they wrote in to ask us if it was okay to have a feeling that maybe they're hanging out with their friend because it makes them feel better. And I think I responded at the time that should definitely not be the only reason that you're hanging out with somebody. And
Yeah.
I suspect it's probably not the reason that you're hanging out with them. And I also suspect that they may not see themselves that way.
Oh, yeah. We both landed on the side of nuance. Like this other guy seems like he's having a totally
Yeah,
fine
he
life.
may not see himself as your lesser, look, I think everybody should be the, hero of their story, and usually are. So, if you think like some other friend is just thinking of themselves as your like sidekick, like I think Scottie Pippen probably, probably pretty happy in life. People are like, oh, he was just Michael Jordan's sidekick. Like he did pretty well.
Uh, you said something to me the other day off pod. I can't remember the context, but you said something like everybody's going through something.
Yes. I fully believe that in my interactions. That's how I approach when I get a response that I'm not digging. Like if somebody's rude to me or being a little difficult or just being cold or standoffish, I take a beat and I go, you
Mm.
know what? Everybody's going through something. I'd be willing. Sometimes I'm like, I'd be willing to bet that the next time we talk, I'll find out they were going through something, and I'm usually right.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, but so we were talking about competition versus comparison. Our trophy is kind of a healthy, friendly, you know, maybe in our early years, we've been doing it for this is our 21st year. People were like trying to one up each other. Now I think we're just generally, I mean, listen, you're trying to live a successful life regardless of winning a trophy.
I mean, I only had this baby to try to win the trophy, and that didn't work. So now
I
I'm
know.
stuck
Like,
with this baby.
what was the point? You
What
know?
was the point? Now I'm stuck with a human child because I was trying to get my name engraved on a trophy. I'm kidding, Brenner. I love you. I love you, Jesse.
You want to take a listener question?
Indeed.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, this is asking for a friend. If you have a listener question or ethical dilemma, send it to us on Instagram, Man of the Year Podcast, and we will answer it on the show. Matt, take it away.
Hey, Matt and Caro. I've been listening to the podcast since the beginning. I suspect that we have similar circles in the fact that everybody's sort of at a different level financially, and I fall squarely in the middle. Unfortunately for me, feelings of jealousy have crept in to the point where one of my friends is doing really well, and I'm still in an apartment in New York, and they own their apartment, but they also have a house in the Hamptons. But they're generous with me all the time. It's not about them putting it in my face or rubbing it in my face. I don't actually think they're doing anything wrong, but I can't help feeling that the more I hang out with them, the less I like them, simply because when I'm around them, I just get a burning sort of anger about where I am in my own life. Should I do something about the friendship? Should I speak to my therapist? Help. I'm just asking you guys. Hopefully you have the magic bullet.
Well, what's interesting about this is this questioner is actually pretty pretty introspective already. Like he
Mhm.
almost did the first half of our answer, which is he knows that it's probably an illogical feeling.
Mhm.
I will say that we've talked in the pod about when you spend time with people who and you don't feel good about yourself,
Mhm.
whether or not that's the other person's quote fault.
Right.
I will give a little credence. We talked about this in do you remember this? It was in the context of IVF. Do you remember this?
Yes.
That couple if there's a couple families and they're all trying together and one person was able to get pregnant, one person wasn't, and they kind of had a bit of a falling out. The other person didn't do anything, but it's just hard to be around them.
Right. And I think you're right in the sense that I don't want to invalidate whether it's rational or irrational to have these feelings. These feelings are
Yeah.
your feelings, and they come up. This is what we're trying to say at the beginning of the pod of like the idea of the comparison is the thief of joy. Yes, we know that, and we're trying to tell you how to balance that. We're not saying, hey, you just got to block these feelings out. I would never give that advice of like just ignore those feelings. But I think we're trying to get to the bottom of how this question was great because we're trying to get to the bottom of how to deal with this.
So I have a question for you. I'm not suggesting this, but is talking to the more well-off friend, and would that do anything?
I don't know. I don't know that it would. Right. So the other friend's inviting you out, basically sharing their success with their friends.
Mhm.
They're, good friending. Um, it's tricky, right? Because on one hand, like if you can't be around somebody, if you can't come over their house in the Hamptons or whatever it is, you can't go to their courtside seats at the Knicks or Lakers or whatever because it makes you feel inadequate. I think that's something you have to deal with. Like, I'm not sure. I have to think this through because, like, are you now going to put that on that person of like, hey, it doesn't make me feel good when you take me to a Laker game? Like,
Right.
what? I'm sorry, what? Now, I do think the only sort of responsibility the person who's so well off has is to have a bit of an awareness about the way that you approach these things. So if you sort of see, usually you can kind of see these things,
Mhm.
So if you sort of see that somebody's sort of feeling uncomfortable with your largesse, I would suggest offering up a much lower key hang in the in between. So it's not always like, hey, we're on my boat, or whatever. It's like, hey, want to just go to the park and get hot dogs or whatever it is, walk through Central Park so that that imbalance isn't ever present.
Mm.
Hey, you want to hang out at your apartment?
That's interesting because, by the way, we're just reading between the lines that it sounds like the largesse guy is being pretty cool because another way we would say it, and had friends do this, who would be like, hey, let's go to blank and blank restaurant, my treat. So it's not even like an issue. Now, some people don't like that.
Right. So it sounds like this guy would not like that because this isn't like a financial issue. He said he's doing fine.
Oh, I missed that. Oh, I
Yeah, he
missed
said,
no.
I'm in the middle. He said, I'm in the middle. So it's
Right.
not that. I think that would rub him the wrong way. So I think that's the thing. If you're the person who's got the largesse, you just have to, like, as a friend, you just kind of have to know your circle. So it is about knowing your circle. Like some of your friends are going to be like, yeah, baby, I'm never pulling my credit card out. Kairo's going, I didn't bring my wallet. Kairo's like, wallet? No, it's in cold storage. And we're like, wait, but Kairo, you don't know crypto. He's like, no, I mean, it's literally in my freezer. I only take it out on special occasions.
It's like I just went on vacation with my parents and
Never
put
took
my
your wallet out.
I put my wallet in the safe in the timeshare, and then I never took it out.
7 days of wallet in time in vault.
Yeah, 7 days. I forgot the password. I was like, well, how did
That wallet story was 7 days in the vault. Story of a son's wallet on a family trip.
But the other thing is that, like, what's the point, Matt? What's the point of having a friend with a boat if you're not on that freaking boat?
I love what you just said. Just pull back and say that to yourself. Right? Like, what's the point of this friend if you can't enjoy their boat, dude? Enjoy it. You should be grateful for your friends and everything they bring to the table. And if one of them has crushed it in life, like, that's great. Be happy for them, but also be grateful that they're including you in that.
Is there a way to sort of look at this and maybe take the money out of it, where it's just what the money represents?
Yep.
You
Well, it
know?
represents a comparison to your own life, which is the first problem, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
So I think like you need to refocus. Like we just said, gratitude, like don't dwell on what you don't have, not just on what they have. Shift your focus on gratitude for the things you have. So separate this friend again. Comparison is a thief of joy because really your joy, you have to be centered on your own, right? It can't be tethered to what other people are doing.
Are you still practicing gratitude every morning?
Always.
And so you list your family.
You were actually in there this morning by name.
Wow.
Yeah, because we were doing the pod, so I threw your name in there. Not always. Don't think you always get the nod.
No,
A
no,
daily,
I'm
a daily Carol mention. Oh, if that were true, I wouldn't tell you.
I'm actually like I'm pretty touched.
Yeah.
But and remind me, do you say everyone's name in like a little sentence? Or you just say I'm grateful for my mom. I'm grateful for. You don't have to say if you
Yeah.
don't feel comfortable.
Yeah. No, I like, when I get to like, I start off with my wife and child, and then my parents, and then my family, and then I get into my friends and neighbors. Then I get into like random things that
But what do you actually do physically do?
I say them out loud.
But so you just say names.
Yeah. I say I'm grateful for, and then I just go down the list, and it's not just names, it can be things.
But
So I
you
do
say
that.
I'm
That's like,
grateful for every time. You say I'm grateful for once and then a list.
I just usually list it, but then sometimes, like if I've taken a pause, I go, I'm also grateful for
Yeah.
when I like sort of come up with a new idea. If I'm like, oh, I'm not done.
So we talked about this, I don't know, years ago, but that's like if you read studies like practicing gratitude is like the number one thing that actually makes you happier. And I've tried it, but then you're saying the same names every day. I feel like you just run out of stuff, not because your life isn't great. It's just like, how many times are you going to say I'm grateful for living in California or
So
whatever?
let me push back heavily.
Yeah.
I start every day fresh in my life. I feel like whatever you choose to be that day of your life is how your day will go. And so I choose every day to practice gratitude. And I do feel that directly to the topic at hand, I don't have a reason to feel jealous of anybody because I'm starting my day in gratitude. And that's a really good place for my just sort of the way I my outlook on life is.
But if you say, if I'm very grateful for my sister, Karen. Hi, Karen. If I
Yep.
say I'm grateful for Karen every day, which is
Yep.
true, but it just feels like the diminishing returns of gratitude because you're just saying the same thing. It's not how it works.
Okay. So should you not say I love you every day to your family members and your spouses and your child?
I mean,
Right. I mean,
you
look,
mean
I understand what you're saying. Like absence makes the heart grow fonder, and like things
no, no,
become
no,
more
no. I'm just
meaningful
saying that like
if they're not, sort of with the frequency. I think for some things, frequency does diminish the value of it and the
right.
significance of it. But I don't think that's true for gratitude or love or these sort of really focal pieces of like how you exist in the world. I actually think, the reason these studies back it up is because it's true. You get up, you practice gratitude, you start off the day with a smile, with love. You're good. It's not just that day, like it's also cumulative. Like I think it builds something up in you. And I
Yeah.
think alternatively, if you don't do it consistently, and consistency is a big thing about this podcast, if you start doing it every other day or every week, you've lost the consistency of it, and you've lost that sort of way that you sort of, get through the world.
All right. You've convinced me. So
Let me
as
ask
we know,
you.
so I meditate every morning. I'm on
Yeah.
1,200 days in a row.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Right. You're the
add.
king of consistency.
Yes, I'm gonna add some gratitude into my meditation. I'm gonna experiment with it. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna worry about. I said my mom every day. I
Yeah.
said my dad every day, and I'm gonna report back. I just made myself a note.
Yeah. And by the way, I like what you said about if you're worried about feeling that it's become mundane or formal or lose its meaning, you can always tweak and change things, right? You could not do it, or you could do it in a different way. Like, who's to say you have to do it at the same time every day or the same order? There's a million ways to sort of tweak it so that it feels new every day.
Mm.
That's what you're really saying. Like it has to feel like new and important versus, oh, this is just some mundane like activity that I do by rote.
So I want to get back to the question. One other suggestion I thought of was just could the more middle class person uh, start, be the friend. I mean, make the plans, come up with something else. Take the
That's
other guy
good.
to dinner or a
It's good,
game.
hero. That's good. That's good. Because I think you're feeding into these things when you just let that person control your relationship, essentially, is what you're saying.
Well, it just sounds very one way. We got to remind people to be the friend, even if there's a
Right.
financial difference. Doesn't take
Right.
you off the hook of planning stuff.
Right. Right. I like that. I like that. I hadn't thought of that. I think it's really good. Can I throw out a couple of other ones?
Yeah.
So, you know me, I don't like to put myself in bad situations. I think it's okay to limit your exposure if these things really bother you. So it's okay to not go on the boat if that's just like drives you. It's okay to know these things about yourself and take action. Like that doesn't
Right.
now make you a bad friend. I think that actually makes it so that you can continue to have the friendship in a way that makes you feel good. But this other thing of like, we're talking about gratitude and all this other stuff. Like, I think you have to be nicer to yourself. Like, people have to be nicer to themselves. Like, knowing that, like, letting yourself rage about your friend inviting you on a boat, like, you're just being you're being cruel to yourself.
Well, what is it you used to always say? Like, what do you get out of that? What do you get out of
Yeah.
saying no to the boat? So now you're not on a
Right.
boat.
Right. Right. You're just
You
being
know,
really, yeah.
we got to give ourselves a little grace. By the way, it's very tough. It's tough. Like this seems like a simple problem, but like when you're the person in there in your head, no, you're saying it's not tough.
No, I agree with you. It's incredibly
Yeah.
tough.
Just like, because especially this guy, because Matt, we've both been there. We're both very cerebral. Okay, this doesn't make any sense.
He
I'm
said,
feeling
he
this.
said, I'm doing fine in life. He said, I have an
Right.
apartment in Manhattan. You're doing better
Yeah.
than, 99% of
Yeah.
people
But,
can afford
and
to
you're
live
just
in Manhattan.
right. And you're just like, this is silly. And it's tough. And that's why I think the people and we both know these people who naturally like that, they're like the happiest. The people who just don't have that bone that like even causes them to feel that in the first place, they're just built different.
So you think they're just built different?
Yeah, like I've mentioned my buddy Lenny, who a few times. He's just like a happy-go-lucky guy. I mean, the
Yeah.
dude was in Iraq. He's seen
Yeah.
stuff that we
Yeah.
would
Look,
never.
I mean, I tend to think that like I'm a mix of, I do tend to fall in that camp, but I also do these things that
Yeah.
I think make it less likely, especially in a town that I know could drive me off the edge. Doing entertainment,
Yeah.
seeing so many people thrive and are in similar lanes, I think you have to also augment the fact, even if I am happy go lucky, I have to augment it with some self care practices. Otherwise, I'll lose my shit.
And we should also say that the friend with the large S, share the wealth. Sounds like they're doing it,
Yeah.
but you will enjoy the spoils of your success so much more if you share it with the homies.
And if you share it in a way that it has some humility.
Yes. Yes. I think that's humility is a great graciousness, humility, like spending X on a Maserati and then spending X on like taking the boys to, I don't know, Thailand. Like you're going to be so much
Ooh,
happier.
Thailand. That was dark. That was a little dark. Thailand with the boys.
I was gonna say like Iceland, but that
Yeah.
doesn't seem very fun. And then I went Thailand.
All right.
Yeah,
Somewhere land. Yeah.
yeah.
Land.
All right. Do
I
we
think
answer
we
the
answered
question?
it. I think
Yeah,
we
this was
answered
a
it.
really, really good question. And like, by the way, questioner, I want to first of all, we changed it to a boat. It was just the Hamptons house, but I want to be in that boat. I want to be in the Hamptons house. I have no shame. I'm happy to enjoy the largesse.
Is it
As you,
okay that I want to be on them and I'm okay with being on them, but they also it drives me to want those things?
well, I mean, that brings us back to like the topic of the episode is like, if you are enjoying, you're comparing, it's motivating you. I think it's okay.
Yeah. Like when I see people doing really well, I'm happy for them, but it does light a fire for me. I think that's healthy. That's just for me. I don't know if it's healthy for everybody, but for me, it lights that fire of like, okay, you gotta step it up a little.
But what about if it's like something so unrelated to you. Like, I can't even think of an example. A buddy got their, ayahuasca license and he's very
Right.
happy. Like, does that
No,
light a
yeah,
fire?
for me, it's very industry specific,
Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
but
telling you,
also
and I
age,
know you're
yeah, also age specific. I think when you see people that are, because when you're younger, right, like it's as I said, it's easier to not be like jealous and competitive because everybody's kind of in the same place. But when people start really separating, and I think that really starts to happen in your late 30s, early 40s, it doesn't really happen that badly before then, I don't think. Where like, oh, people aren't staying in the same hotels or living in the same neighborhoods or going to the same schools or like all of these things. I think it makes it harder to maintain that friendship without figuring out some other ways to either set boundaries or communicate. Look, we didn't really talk about the communication of it just because I just don't know if I totally buy it. That as an approach for guys, for like one guy who's, feeling jealous about his other friend, to go to him and be like, look, this is, it's bothering me that you have a boat.
What do you think of is it an aphorism? I don't know, the saying that like you're exactly where you're supposed to be? Talking about age stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. I don't know. Sometimes I buy into that. Other times I'm like, that's a cop out.
Yeah.
Depends on the day, right? Some days I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Other
Right.
days I'm like, no. You got to double down right now, like to get where you're going.
Like you see something on Twitter like Grandma Moses didn't like paint her first paint. She was 90. I'm like, that's so depressing.
Yeah. Colonel Sanders didn't start KFC till he was in his 60s.
Is that true?
Yep.
I don't even think I knew that Colonel Sanders was a real person.
You know what's depressing? People say Dustin Hoffman got a late start because he was 30 when he did The Graduate.
I know. I hate that. All right, Matt, what did we learn today? We learned a lot.
We learned a lot about Teddy Roosevelt.
We learned a lot about Teddy Roosevelt. I think that I learned that some comparison is going to be natural, is inevitable. You should give yourself, a little bit of grace. But I think probably the best way to take that comparison and turn it into something positive, motivation or celebration of your friend.
I like that. If you're going to take what you said, if you're going to be competitive or compare, use it as either motivation or celebration.
Yeah.
I have nothing to add to that. That's great.
He's just taking my learning. That's great.
Right.
That's totally valid. And I respect you for it.
I respect
God,
you.
I respect you. Hey, and by the way, I'm grateful for you as well.
I'm grateful for you too. And I wish you success to the extent that it's almost as great as mine. Just right.
Yeah, okay. I was going to go equivalent, but you said underneath. Hey,
I wish your success to slide right under mine in the rankings of Hollywood's power players. If they put us in the Hollywood power players for the pod, I'd like my picture to be above yours.
They're going to do the cop out where they put us in the same thing. Cairo and Ritter, podcast partners, showrunners. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Always remember, be good to yourself, be good to your friends. Hey, Matt, love you, buddy.
Love you, buddy.